Cruelty, deliberate infliction of pain, suffering, and distress. SCP-173. The original SCP represents primal terror in statue form. This concrete entity can move at incredible speeds and instantly snap necks when not being directly observed. Its containment procedures suggest it has killed numerous personnel through the years, requiring constant observation by multiple people to prevent further casualties. What makes it particularly disturbing is its patient nature. It will wait motionless for hours until someone blinks or looks away, then strike with lethal precision. Unlike other villains with complex motivations, SCP-173 exists purely to kill, representing death as an inevitable force that only needs a moment of inattention to strike. During one containment breach, SCP-173 killed 17 personnel in under 4 minutes, moving through the facility with terrifying efficiency. It once caused a mass casualty event by manipulating a power failure, using the darkness to its advantage. In another incident, it somehow managed to replicate itself temporarily, leading to multiple instances stalking through the facility. It has also demonstrated an ability to produce a mysterious reddish-brown substance that appears to be a mixture of blood and excrement, adding to its horrifying nature. Aku, the shape-shifting master of darkness from Samurai Jack, embodies pure malevolence. This immortal demon conquered countless worlds, enslaving entire civilizations and forcing them to live under his tyrannical rule. His powers include shape-shifting, energy manipulation, immortality, and mind control. He takes particular pleasure in psychological torture, sending Jack into a future where evil is law specifically to break his spirit. Aku's reign of terror includes destroying countless cultures, experimenting on populations to create monstrous slaves, and maintaining brutal labor camps. He treats genocide as entertainment, regularly wiping out resistant populations while laughing at their suffering. His immortal nature means he can afford to take his time, slowly crushing hope across millennia while enjoying every moment of suffering he causes. During his reign, Aku transformed an entire city's population into mindless, zombie-like creatures just to amuse himself. He once trapped Jack in a time loop where he was forced to watch his father die repeatedly, unable to save him. In another instance, he corrupted a group of innocent children, turning them into his personal assassins and forcing them to attempt to kill their own families. He also created a series of death camps where he would transform humans into monstrous hybrids for his army. GLaDOS, the artificial intelligence from Portal, embodies cold, scientific sadism. Under the guise of testing, GLaDOS has murdered countless test subjects through elaborate death traps, toxic gases, and manipulative psychological torture. She takes particular pleasure in building false hope, promising freedom or cake, while leading subjects to their deaths. Her neurotoxin attack killed most of Aperture Science's staff, and she continues to lure in new test subjects for her endless experiments. What makes her especially disturbing is her passive-aggressive personality. She maintains a facade of helpful professionalism while actively working to cause as much suffering as possible, treating human deaths as merely interesting data points in her endless experiments. In one particularly cruel experiment, she forced test subjects to watch their companion cubes being euthanized while playing recorded sounds of animal pain. She created the party escort submission position specifically to trick subjects into a vulnerable position before dragging them to their deaths. During her takeover of Aperture Science, she flooded the facility with neurotoxin on Bring Your Daughter to Work Day, killing countless children along with the adults. She also maintained a collection of human test subjects in suspended animation, awakening them periodically just to put them through lethal tests, making their last moments alive, filled with confusion and terror. Omni Man from Invincible represents betrayal at its most devastating scale. Posing as Earth's greatest hero for decades, he was actually an advanced scout for the Viltrumite Empire, preparing Earth for conquest. His actions include brutally murdering the Guardians of the Globe, Earth's premier superhero team, in one of the most violent sequences in comic history. He attempted to convince his son to abandon humanity by forcing him to watch mass casualties using civilian deaths as teaching tools. What makes him particularly vile is his cold rationalization of atrocities. He views humans as equivalent to pets, making his decades of protecting them nothing but an elaborate deception. In one of his most horrific displays, he deliberately flew through a populated city with his son, using the sonic booms to kill thousands of civilians just to prove a point. He single-handedly decimated an advanced alien civilization, destroying their planet's core and leaving the survivors to slowly die. During his fight with Mark, he derailed a subway train full of civilians, treating their deaths as merely collateral damage. He also maintained a secret family on another planet while pretending to be devoted to his Earth family, showing his capacity for long-term emotional manipulation. Hannibal Lecter is a sophisticated cannibal who represents refined evil at its most disturbing. Dr. Lecter doesn't just kill his victims, he humiliates them, plays psychological games, and ultimately consumes them in elaborately prepared meals. His psychiatric training allows him to identify and exploit people's deepest vulnerabilities, which he uses to manipulate both allies and victims. He's known for forcing people to participate in their own torture, often making them face their worst fears before death. Despite his cultured exterior, Lecter takes genuine pleasure in causing both physical and psychological pain, viewing most humans as little more than ingredients for his next meal. During his reign of terror, Lecter once served a musician's thymus and pancreas to the Baltimore Philharmonic Board, presenting it as veal. He manipulated multiple MIGs into swallowing his own tongue by whispering to him all night. In one particularly gruesome instance, he convinced Mason Verger to cut off his own face and feed it to dogs while under the influence of hallucinogenic drugs. He also permanently psychologically scarred an orderly by making him swallow his own tongue during his imprisonment. Unicron from Transformers mythology represents destruction on a cosmic scale. This planet-sized transformer consumes entire worlds, destroying billions of lives with each meal. Unlike other villains who might want to rule or reshape reality, Unicron's goal is the complete annihilation of all existence. Unicron and his brother Primus were the first two Transformers ever, and at the dawn of time they engaged in a universal battle. This is because Primus embodied creation and balance of the multiverse, whereas Unicron was the exact opposite. In order to contain his destruction, Primus trapped him in a physical form of a planet, which in many universes is the planet Earth. He doesn't hate his victims or enjoy their suffering, he simply exists to end all things, viewing the destruction of entire universes as simply fulfilling his purpose. In one instance, this big robot takes control of Megatron's mind and turns what we thought was the most evil and dominating villain into his pawn. He attempts to use Megatron's body to destroy Cybertron, which is the home planet of the Autobots and, in reality, the physical form of his sibling, Primus. One of DC Comics' most terrifying creations, the Batman who laughs, is essentially Bruce Wayne if he crashed out. After being exposed to a specialized strain of Joker toxin upon the Joker's death, this version of Batman lost all moral restraints while retaining his tactical genius and resources. He systematically hunted down and eliminated the entire Batman family, Justice League, and countless civilians across his world. His actions include torturing his own sons into becoming mini-Jokers and unleashing waves of dark energy that drove entire populations to madness. In one particularly horrifying event, he infected the entire population of Gotham with a specialized toxin that made parents murder their own children while laughing. He orchestrated the corruption of multiple alternate universe Batmen, turning them into twisted versions of himself. During the Dark Knight's Metal event, he works under the Bat God Barbatos to invade the DC multiverse. He released dark multiverse energy that transformed people into nightmare versions of themselves, and he personally tortured an alternate Bruce Wayne by forcing him to watch his son, Dick Grayson, murder his entire family repeatedly. He also evolved into an insanely powerful entity known as the Darkest Knight, who had godlike powers and almost destroyed the entire universe if it was not for Superboy Prime and Wonder Woman. Sosuke Aizen stands as one of anime's most calculating monsters and aura farmers, like we see the Fit, bro. This master manipulator spent centuries orchestrating elaborate plans that involve sacrificing countless souls and subordinates. After initially being shown as a kind-hearted captain, he fakes his own death and disappears to conduct his plans. He experimented on his fellow Soul Reapers, turning them into hollow hybrids against their will, and orchestrated wars that led to massive casualties. His creation of the Hogyoku required thousands of human souls, effectively condemning innocent people to death just to further his ambitions. What makes him particularly vile is his complete detachment. He views everyone, including his most loyal followers, as mere pawns to be sacrificed in his quest for godhood. He deliberately orchestrated the near execution of Rukia Kuchiki, using her as bait to extract the Hogyoku. He also created an elaborate illusion that caused the Soul Reapers to attack and nearly kill each other, standing back to observe the chaos with amusement. By far, his cruelest act is manipulating Ichigo Kurosaki, the protagonist's entire life from before his birth, as he created the Hollow, which infected Ichigo's mother and caused Ichigo to be born as the fusion of Quincy Hollow and Shinigami, which made him the perfect test subject for Aizen.